From CBS 2 News, this is a special report.
Mayor de Blasio is giving an update on the coronavirus pandemic in New York City. Let's listen in.
Brought together who want to see us fight back against the disease that's afflicted us all, held us back, disrupted our lives, done so much damage to our families and our neighborhoods. People want peace and they want us to move forward. Now, there are always going to be people trying to disrupt the peace and unity of this place, the single most diverse place on earth, a beacon of hope to the world. That's what New York City is. Because New York City offers the possibility and the promise that people could come together from all faiths, from all backgrounds in one place, people of all nations building together something better. And that's what we do all the time. And sometimes we meet crisis, because that is part of humanity. Sometimes we meet challenges. But New Yorkers historically, time and again, overcome these challenges and actually find more unity, more strength. And we will do that again now. These have been tough, tough days, painful days, confusing days. Not just the last few days, the 3 months that we've been dealing with the greatest healthcare crisis in generations. But we will fight our way through together, and the only way we get there is together. Last night in New York City, there were some specific horrible moments, but there was overwhelmingly peace. Last night in New York City, the NYPD was out there protecting us. Men and women of the NYPD, we asked so much of them. We asked so much strength, so much restraint. They were out there protecting us, as they do every day. There were people out there, very few, who were protesting overwhelmingly peacefully. We did not see, thank God, any but a very few acts of vandalism. What we saw overwhelmingly was peaceful protest. The vast, vast, vast majority of New Yorkers honored the curfew. The curfew helped to move us towards peace and a better place. We're going to keep at this work day after day. It will not be easy, but we will keep at it and we will achieve the progress we need. We had a horrible, painful incident late last night in Brooklyn. 3 of our officers wounded in an absolutely unprovoked attack. And we are piecing together the details. Commissioner Shea will speak to it, but there's still a lot more to know. But I've seen the video myself, and I can say here were 2 of our officers simply trying to protect the community, and they came under unprovoked attack, and that is absolutely unacceptable. An attack on any one of our officers is an attack on all of us. I need you to know that the officers who were wounded represented all that is great about New York City, represented the fact that people come here from all over this country, all over this world to find a better life. And they represent this entire world, and then some choose to serve all of us. The officer who was attacked with a knife, police officer Jean-Pierre, born in Haiti, came here, an exemplary young man giving back to the country that welcomed him and embraced him. He was the one attacked with a knife last night. And 2 of his colleagues, Officer Ramnarine, his parents immigrated to this country. Officer Chu, as well, his parents immigrated to this country. A painful, horrible moment, and at the same time, a picture of the greatness of New York City, that these 3 individuals brought all of themselves to all of us to protect all of us. Thank God they will all recover. But it is unacceptable, I'm going to say it so clearly, it is absolutely unacceptable to attack a police officer in any way, shape, or form. We will not tolerate it. There will always be consequences. Now let's move forward. Let's move forward. Today in Minnesota will be the funeral for George Floyd. There will be a memorial here in New York City. That marks a moment to recognize the pain that caused so much concern, so much of an outpouring of a deep, deep, deep desire for change. But there's also an inflection point. Ask everyone to remember, if we're going to make changes, we have to do it together, and we need peace. So this is a good moment to reflect and a good moment to turn the page and start moving forward. Now, we saw some horrible events a few days ago. And as I keep saying, they have nothing to do with the actions of peaceful protesters. We saw attacks on communities in the Bronx and in Manhattan, just pure vandalism, criminality, only for personal gain, not for any cause. And in the community in the Bronx that I visited a few days ago, Burnside Avenue, Fordham Road, the places that were hit so hard, we have small business owners fighting back. We have community residents cleaning up the streets, not accepting anyone who would try to destroy their community, standing up, reclaiming their streets, their neighborhood, their city. We will help them. Those small business owners who scratched and saved and built a small business, so many of them immigrants living the American dream, today we announce support for them. The New York City Mayor's Fund will start with $500,000 to help those businesses recover, individual grants, direct cash assistance. I want to thank everyone who is supporting this effort. And we turn to community members who care, and they stepped up to help the people of the Bronx, to help those small businesses. Special thanks to Somos Community Care, to Dr. Ramon Talaj and Dr. Henry Chen. New Yorkers, immigrants, people who believe in helping others, they will work with us to help those small businesses back on their feet. I met those small business owners. They're not going anywhere. They believe in the Bronx. They believe in New York City. They will be back. We'll provide a variety of help to all those small businesses that were affected. Legal help, help getting their insurance, whatever it takes to get them back on their feet. Now, let's go back to the moment in history we're in much more broadly. We're dealing with some very, very real issues these last days, but remember, for almost 100 days now, we have been dealing with the coronavirus. This pandemic that has created such pain, such frustration, that's laid bare such clear disparities that must be addressed and taken such a human toll. And then on top of it, created a crisis that stole people's livelihood, that forced people, especially our young people, to have to be indoors without schools, without the things that they depended on, the community centers, all the things that matter. This disruption has been vast, but we will not let it stop us, and we will rebuild and we will restart. And so Monday, June 8th, phase one begins, and we are resolute that we will continue this restart process. We're going to do all we can to support the businesses in phase one. We're going to do all we can to support working people who are part of phase one. Today, we launch a dedicated hotline to help small businesses. Today, we will put out guides to help small businesses know exactly what they need to be able to do the work of restart. Any small business that needs help as they prepare for Monday can call 888-SBS-4NYC. We're going to be providing 2 million free face coverings to small businesses to help them get started. We're going to help workers as well. Any worker who, as they return to work, is concerned about their health and safety, needs guidance, needs support, they can call 311, or they can go to nyc.gov/coronavirus to get the facts about all we will do to help working people. We must have health and safety as the priorities in this restart. So we're going to go forward with a vigorous, energetic approach that we must restart. Phase one must begin Monday. It will begin Monday. If we all work together, phase one can move on to phase two. And at this moment, phase two could start as early as the beginning of July. So we want to keep moving forward, but it's going to take an intensive focus on health and safety at every moment, in every business, in everything we do. But we're not just saying to businesses, go out there, figure it out. We will be with them every step of the way to help them protect themselves, to protect their workers, make sure that everything is done the right way. We want these businesses to succeed as they come back. We want the city to succeed. We want people to get their livelihoods back, and that's going to help create progress and peace when people can make ends meet again. So we will be there with the businesses of New York City as they restart Monday. Now, I mentioned that phase 2 could begin as early as the beginning of July, and in phase 2, we will be able to move on to many other types of businesses. And as we heard from the state, that can also include reopening a number of our restaurants with a focus on outdoors. And that's the way we want to go. We have a new initiative, Open Restaurants, that will focus on what it takes to make outdoor seating work. We will provide a plan to help restaurants set up that outdoor seating, to help them bring their employees back. We will provide a massive expansion of curbside seating, a big expansion of open streets. We'll do what it takes to help this key part of life in New York City, key part of our economy, the wellspring of the livelihood of hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers, to come back strong, starting in phase 2 in July. This is going to be another important step, but again, health and safety first. Everything we're doing is to make sure that we do it safely, that this disease does not spread, that we beat it back, and as our test and trace program comes into high gear this week, we fight back the disease with more and more testing for New Yorkers, more and more tracing of those who have been infected and all their contacts, to get them the help they need, to get them, if they need to be safely separated, the support they need. More testing, more tracing, more support at the same time as we help businesses restart safely, bring back people's livelihood, bring back all that people love about this place, fight this disease back every day. And that leads me to our indicators and thresholds. Once again, we see that because of what you have done, you, everyone I'm looking at out there, over 8 million people, you have achieved this success. Indicator 1, daily number of people admitted to hospitals for suspected COVID-19. Again, that threshold is to stay under 200 patients a day. 48 is our latest report, only 48, and that is great. Indicator 2, daily number of people in our health and hospitals ICUs. That threshold is 375, and today, only 354 in our ICUs. And this is the most important and best news. Percentage of people tested positive citywide for COVID-19, that threshold is 15%. Today we have the lowest number we have seen since this crisis began, only 3% testing positive. With more and more testing happening, more and more people being reached, only 3% testing positive. That is very good news. Whatever else we're fighting, whatever else we have to overcome, this is what is going to allow us to move forward, and it's because of all of you. Everyone who stayed indoors, no matter how tough, everyone who's socially distanced, everyone who wears a face covering. You are changing things so that we can restart this city and make sure we move forward. Thank you. A few words in Spanish. Gracias al gran esfuerzo de los neoyorquinos, solo faltan 4 días para comenzar la primera fase de reinicio. Hay que seguir ayudando a nuestros negocios y trabajadores para que estén listos para regresar de manera segura. Todos los neoyorquinos tienen que seguir luchando contra este virus para ganar el paso hacia la próxima fase y más allá. With that, we will turn to our colleagues in the media. Please remind me of the name and outlet of each journalist.
We'll now begin our Q&A. As a reminder, we're also joined today by Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, by Police Commissioner Dermot Shea, and by DOT COO Margaret Forgione. First question today goes to Andrew Siff from NBC.
Hi, Mayor. Thanks. I hope you're doing well. Hope everyone on the call is doing well. Two questions. The first is, to what degree is day one of reopening New York City phase one at risk because of the curfew, the protests, and the general sense of unease right now? To what degree is it all at risk for Monday? My second question has to do with the police activity in some of the protests. A lot of folks can see on video the use of batons, protesters who are being asked to leave being hit with batons. Wondering what you think about that and whether you condone that type of police behavior.
Thank you, Andrew. On your first question, look, I'm not going to for a moment minimize all the challenges we're going through, how disruptive it has been, how difficult it's been. But phase one continues on pace, period. Phase one begins Monday, June 8th. The curfew will end that morning at 5 a.m. And then we get to work in this city. Hundreds of thousands more people will go to work, and it'll help us move forward. Everything's interconnected here, Andrew. Horrible healthcare crisis, horrible disparities, the tragedy in Minnesota. Everything together is interconnected. And we have to recognize that fact. I don't minimize that fact. But we have to move forward. This is the challenge of humanity. We have to move forward despite the pain, despite challenges. We have to move forward, and we will move forward. So I believe the vast, vast majority of New Yorkers want to see us restart. They also want to see us constantly improve the relationship between police and community. They want to see justice. We have to do all these things at once. So phase one will continue as planned. In terms of the questions you raised on last night, overwhelmingly what I know about last night is that the curfew was honored overwhelmingly by New Yorkers. Again, almost no vandalism or looting last night. There was some peaceful protest, overwhelmingly peaceful, certainly throughout the day and into the night. A lot of restraint from the NYPD overall. I have not seen the videos you refer to or seen those accounts. But if there's anything that needs to be reviewed, it will be. If there's anything that needs to be investigated, it will be. I want to be clear. When people are instructed by the NYPD, especially after curfew, they must follow those instructions. The NYPD has actually taken, I think, a very open approach, respecting protest, flexible as always. This is part of what is never given its credit, is that the decades of NYPD handling protests, where there's in many ways, the approach is to give space, and if protesters do not engage in violence, they're given the opportunity to protest. We still know there are some in these crowds who are committing violence or aim to commit violence. It's an obvious fact. We're seeing it all over the country. And we're going to keep providing information to the media about the very few, and I want to emphasize, Andrew, very few who aim to do violence, whether it's just the pure vandals that we saw on Sunday, Monday night, or whether it is those who, again, based on an ideology I can't even follow or understand, simply want to create conflict, want videos of conflict, want to attack police officers, want to attack property. Very small number, but that has to be addressed. But if there's any instance of inappropriate activity by police, we will investigate that. It's the balance we always strike. But let's never forget that the vast majority of our officers are doing something very difficult at this moment and showing a lot of restraint and trying to shepherd us through this moment to a better and more peaceful moment.
The next is Joe Anuda from Politico.
Mr. Mayor.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Not too bad. I wanted to follow up on Andrew's question and just talk about yesterday you said protesters who were out past curfew would be allowed as long as they were peaceful. And I think we did see some peaceful protests in Brooklyn, Manhattan that were broken up around the same time by the NYPD. They sort of amassed and were shoving people to disperse them. So my first question is, could you describe sort of what happened between your comments saying people could stay out as long as they were peaceful, and then why they seemed to be broken up by these large groups of officers? And my second question is, you said that changes to expedite the disciplinary process in the police department are underway. I'm wondering if you can give us a sense of any details where the current bottlenecks are, changes you're going to make, or steps you've already taken. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Joe, on your second question, look, this is something we're going to work on. We obviously need to get through this immediate moment, and we will. But there's absolute commitment, I feel it, the commissioner feels it, to showing the public transparency and consistency and accountability. Every part of a democratic society must live up to those standards. Every part of our government has to live up to those standards. People have to feel it. They have to know it. And we have more to do. And I have a year and a half in which I'm going to work incessantly to ensure that there is accountability, it is clear, it is transparent, it is speedy. We must do better. We will do better. I know the commissioner shares the full understanding that to build trust and make us all safer and protect community and officers alike, when people trust each other, when people believe there's fairness, that is the safest reality for a community member and a police officer. That's where we have to go. You saw a real live example, Joe, last Friday with the announcement that charges are being brought from the horrible incident in the Lower East Side a few weeks ago. That was a lot faster than what we've seen in the past. I want to see things move ever more faster, but always with due process, always with thorough investigation, always with a devotion to the facts. So I don't have a specific outline to give you right now because, again, we're dealing with immediate issues. But in the coming weeks, we're going to lay out additional steps we will take. And those steps, I have no doubt, will move us forward. And to everyone who says it can't happen, they said, and I can give you the chapter and verse, all the people who said we couldn't get rid of the broken and unconstitutional policy of stop and frisk, it would lead to crime, it would lead to disorder. We made that big change. The city got better, the city got safer. People who said we couldn't reduce arrest, 180,000 fewer arrests in 2019 compared to 2013. We got safer. Body cameras on officers make us safer. All of these things move us forward, and we're going to keep going. On your first question, Joe, again, we'll be reviewing any new information that came out of last night. I will. I know the commissioner will. If there's anything that's a concern, a problem, anything questionable, anything inappropriate, it will be followed up on immediately. But I want to emphasize, I don't think there is anything but clarity if we say there's a curfew at 8 p.m. and that folks are being told consistently, there's a curfew here and we're showing respect for protest, but you need to go home. And if at a certain point officers say, okay, it's time, we need to go now, people need to listen to that. It's not an unfair action to say, in the context of crisis, in the context of curfew, there is a point where enough is enough. I just think, and I'm someone who believes deeply in all the checks and balances of a democratic society, but I'm the duly elected mayor. I have put this curfew in place given the circumstances we have dealt with. We have seen the positive effect. We saw the impact Tuesday night, better than the 2 nights before. Wednesday night, better than Tuesday night. But it takes some respect on all sides. If officers say, now is the point, we need you to go home, it's time to go home.
The next is Jen Peltz at the AP.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jen, how you doing?
Thanks. 2 questions. One, do you believe there's any connection between the stabbing incident last night in Brooklyn and the looting, unrest, or protests that are going on? And the other is, I was listening to what you were saying about the importance of reopening and moving forward. I just wondered if you could reflect a little bit on the magnitude of what New York City will need to do to not just reopen, but eventually hope to reclaim some full sense of itself.
Reclaim full sense of itself? Is that what you said?
Yeah, or a full kind of New York, something more close to normal.
So framing last night the question you raised, after, a full week in which overwhelmingly we have seen peaceful protest and tremendous restraint by the NYPD, that kind of the hallmark of what we have seen historically with protests, many of which I have participated in over the years, peaceful protesters trying to move their cause forward in a democratic society the right way, NYPD reflecting our democracy, protecting the right to protest, and doing it with great restraint. What a juxtaposition to what we saw in Washington, D.C., a horrible effort to bring our military in inappropriately and to invade civilian life and the democratic process. And again, the reason I don't want to see National Guard in New York City, because we have a police force trained to respect the people of this city and respect the right to protest. So that's what's happened overwhelmingly. We saw a criminal element on Monday and Tuesday night, absolutely opportunistic criminal element trying to simply do things for their own gain, no relationship to cause. We've seen a small group of violent protesters, ideologically motivated, systematically organized here and around the country. But the reason I bring all that together is to say that when we see someone attack a police officer, and we've seen that too much in recent days, we can't always tell you immediately what the motivation was and what the individual was doing and why, and that's why we do the investigations to get you all the facts, and each one very well could be different. Often it is. But it's undoubtedly clear that anyone who bears hatred towards police officers does something that hurts all of us, does not move us forward to attack a police officer. It's inappropriate, and it's painfully clear. Here is a police force that is trying to move forward and improve and be responsive to community concerns. Here is a police force that is majority of people of color. Here is a police force that is doing things overwhelmingly that reflect the restraint we want to see from our police, has made a lot of progress in 6.5 years, has a lot more to do. Anyone who attacks a police officer attacks all of us, period. So I'm not going to theorize on what motivates each person. I'm going to simply make it simpler than that. If you attack a police officer, there will be consequences. If you attack a police officer, you obviously do not believe in democracy, in decency, in respect for the rule of law, and you will have to suffer consequences for that. And we're not going to let any one individual drag us down, because I've seen well over 8 million people respect our police and respect our protesters and believe in our democracy, and I've seen a handful try and tear us down. We will not let them tear us down, period. We will not let them divide us. The question about the reopening. Jen, I'm going to tell you something. Again, I've seen this city overcome every conceivable problem. I cannot tell you, having experienced the 1980s in this city, the 1990s, the extraordinary challenges, deep challenges that went on for years and years and years that looked insurmountable, and then to see this city overcome them one after another after another. That is the spirit of New York City. There's no way in the world we are going to fail. I guarantee it. This city will not fail. So phase one is going to go on. Then we're going to build from there. We're going to watch like hawks to make sure this disease does not reassert. And the greatness of New York City, it will be on full view in the coming months, and then we'll grow from there. Is it going to take a while to get back to all of our greatness? Yes, Jen, it will.